One day from now, a man will sit right here, in a chair rigged to end him. Straps will lock down his wrists, his chest, his legs. A switch will snap, and 2,000 volts will rip through his veins, burning, searing, silencing. His name is Ted Bundy. You know him, America's most notorious killer, a face that haunted the 70s. In 24 hours, on January 24th, 1989, Florida's electric chair will take him down. But here's the thing. What went down in those final ticks of the clock? What did he whisper in that cell as the minutes bled away? What did he bury deep, away from the lights and the screams? And what didn't we know until now? This is Ted Bundy's last day, his hidden end. Or is it? Picture the 1970s, a decade of bell-bottoms, disco, and a world that still felt safe. That's when Ted Bundy stepped in. A charmer with a smile that could melt doors. A law student who'd carry your groceries. Until he didn't. Behind that grin was a monster. 30 women, maybe more, dead across half a dozen states. Washington, Utah, Colorado, Oregon. Girls snatched from campuses, parks. Their lives snuffed out with a tire iron or a rope. Families left shattered, picking up pieces he scattered like ash. He danced with the law for years, slippery, always a step ahead. They finally nailed him in 1978, a traffic stop in Florida that ended the run. But not before he'd pulled off 2 jailbreaks, crawling through ceilings, strolling out like he owned the place. Free again, he hit harder. A final spree in Tallahassee, breaking into the Chi Omega sorority house, leaving 2 college girls dead, 2 barely breathing. Then a 12-year-old, Kimberly Leach, gone, his last mark. The trials came fast. Florida wanted blood. 3 death sentences slapped down. 2 for Chi Omega, 1 for that little girl. The judge's words rang out. Take care of yourself, young man. It's a tragedy. But Bundy, he just sat there, that smirk still curling. By 1979, he was on death row, locked in Florida State Prison, waiting for the chair. A legend of terror, boxed up at last. Or so they thought. It's January 23rd, 1989, and Ted Bundy's world has shrunk to this. A 6x9 cage, deep in Florida State Prison. The clock's ticking down. 24 hours until the end. Concrete walls close him in, cold and gray. A barred window too high to show more than a fading sky. This is death row's edge, where the air tastes like steel and every sound bounces back harder. They bring him his last meal, steak, eggs, hash browns, the works. Standard for a man facing the chair. But Bundy doesn't touch it, doesn't even look at it. Instead, he's chain-smoking, 1 cigarette after another, the glow lighting his face in quick, nervous flashes. The tray sits there, cold, while smoke fills the cell like a shroud. Tension's thick now. Guards are posted close, eyes locked on him, every twitch, every breath tracked. A chaplain hovers near, murmuring words Bundy doesn't seem to hear. He's pacing, back and forth, a caged animal with nowhere to run. Outside, the crowd's growing, hundreds strong, their voices seeping through the walls, a low rumble swelling into chants. They want him gone, and the night knows it. Inside that concrete box, as the night drags on, something shifts. The air's heavy, thicker than just cigarette smoke and prison grime. These are Ted Bundy's last hours, and not everything's as clean-cut as the history books want you to think. There's more here. Moments that slipped through the cracks, whispers that didn't make the headlines, things that make you wonder what we missed. Take this. One of the guards swears he saw something that night, something that stuck with him long after the lights went out. He says Bundy looked up, caught his eye, and smirked. Just a flicker, quick as a blade. Then he leaned in close enough the guard could smell the tobacco on his breath, and whispered something, low, strange, almost a taunt. What was it? The guard can't recall, or won't. Lost it to the noise, he said later. But that smirk, those words, they haunt him. A secret Bundy took to the chair, buried in the dark. Then there's the interview, the last one, taped just hours before the end. Bundy sits there, cool as ever, talking to a psychologist named James Dobson. He's got the world's eyes on him. One final stage. He points the finger at porn, says it twisted him, turned him into the killer he became. It's a clean story, a neat little bow for the cameras. But listen close. There's a hollowness to it. Those eyes don't match the words. Was he playing one last game? Holding back something bigger, something uglier, behind that smooth-talking mask? Some who watched swear he cut himself off mid-sentence, like he almost let it slip. What didn't he say? What stayed locked in his head as the tape ran out? And then there's what came after, when the smoke cleared and the chair went cold. They didn't just bury Ted Bundy. Doctors got their hands on him, cut him open, right down to the bone. His brain, that twisted engine of evil, went under the knife. They poked and prodded, looking for answers. A scar, a shadow, some clue to explain the monster. Did they find it? Some say yes. Whispers of abnormalities, quirks in the wiring. Others say it was a bust, just a normal brain staring back. But the files? Locked tight, scattered, lost over years. What did they see in there? Did they crack the key to what made him? Or did it die with him? One last riddle no one solved? It's 7 a.m., January 24th, 1989, and the clocks run out. Ted Bundy's marched into the chamber, hands cuffed, legs shuffling, guards gripping his arms tight. The crowd outside's a roaring beast now, hundreds packed tight, screaming, "Burn! Bundy! Burn!" through the fences. They've waited years for this, and it's here. They strap him in, thick leather belts across his chest, his wrists, his ankles. A black hood drops over his face, blotting out those eyes forever. This is it, the final hour. That chair, Florida's pride, old Sparky, it's ready. They've shaved his head, his leg, metal caps clamped on, wet sponges pressed against skin to carry the juice. The executioner's hand hovers over the switch. Then it flips. 2,000 volts hit him like a thunderclap. Sparks fly, blue and jagged, spitting from the wires. His body jerks, stiffens hard, every muscle locked tight. One jolt's not enough. They hit him again. A second blast, longer, meaner. Smoke curls up, sharp and bitter. Then, silence. 7:16 a.m., and it's over. Ted Bundy's still, slumped, gone. They pull the hood off, check the pulse, call it done. But before the switch flipped, he got his last say. Strapped in, calm as a man waiting for coffee, he looks out and speaks, soft, steady. "Give my love to my family and friends." That's it. No confession, no scream, no begging. Just those words, hanging there, eerie and plain. Too simple for a man who broke the world. Too quiet for the monster they burned.
O'clock this morning, Ted Bundy's time ran out. Bundy was executed 11 years after being sentenced to death for murdering a child in Lake City.
Ted Bundy's gone. 7:16 a.m., and the volts took him out. The chair's cold now. The crowd's cheering itself hoarse, drifting away into the morning. But here's the thing. His death didn't tie it all up neat. It's not the end of the questions. Why him? This charming killer? This one-man nightmare? Why this way? Strapped in, burned alive, a spectacle for a state that wanted him erased. His body's in the ground, but the echoes keep ringing. That electric chair, it was Florida's crown jewel once. Old Sparky, they called it. A machine that fried dozens before Bundy, a symbol of hard justice. Back then, it roared, sparks and all. But now, it's fading, states turning away, chasing needles and gas, anything cleaner than the smoke and the screams. Bundy's execution was one of its last big shows, a throwback that's slipping into shadow. Did it prove something, or just leave us staring at our own hands? 30 years and more, and we're still digging. Still asking. Did we bury the truth with Ted Bundy that day? Lock it in the earth with his bones? Or is it still out there, lurking in those lost whispers? That cut-up brain, the pieces we never found. He's dead, but the shadow doesn't fade. Maybe it never will. Ted Bundy's 24 hours ran dry, burned out in a flash of sparks and silence. The chair's empty, the crowd's gone, and he's a name carved into history. But here's the itch that won't quit. Did we miss something? Was that jolt the whole story, or just the start of what we don't know? His end came fast, but the shadows he left? They're still moving. Stick around. Hit that subscribe button, because we're not done yet. We're digging deeper, peeling back the layers of death row's darkest corners. More stories, more secrets, waiting to break loose. Bundy's gone, but this is just the beginning.